This screen lasts for about 5 seconds before the presentation. Hi, I'm Greg Farmer, National Curriculum Manager for Gallopade. Today I want to share with you our curriculum, our materials, tell you a little bit about Gallopade and why we're the best choice for your classroom. A little bit about us. We've been around for over 40 years, providing high quality social studies, state standards based materials. We've published over 10,000 educational books and products, and we support over 1 million students and teachers. Our Florida curriculum is 100% aligned to the next generation Sunshine State standards for social studies. It's flexible with both print and digital resources so you can customize your experience to your classroom. And we have a proven evidence based approach that we'll look at today. The Gallopade curriculum components, what we're going to be breaking down and looking at is the student edition, the teacher's edition, the online platform with the digital course, all of the teaching tools and multimedia resources, as well as grading and reporting, and the pre-built assessments and the item bank. What we use at Gallopade is it's our evidence-based approach. We kind of call it small bites. And what we do is where we take a chunk of information, we give it to the students, then we stop and have them interact. It's an intentional learning process. We design it for active learning. We want active engagement, active learning, active teaching. It's fully interactive through questioning, exploring, discussion points. All of these things are full of interactive activities. As I said before, it is standards based. It was written with the standards in mind, and it's age appropriate, that it matches what's exactly right and appropriate for the students in your classroom. The process basically that we help you with is preparing and planning, teaching, reinforcing, testing, measuring, and evaluating, and then around again. The goal is for Gallopade to make teaching easier, and that's what we do. The student book, it's not a normal textbook like you'd normally think of. It's not a workbook like you would think of in the past. It's a combination of a textbook and a workbook all into one. It combines all of the activities into one system. It provides a consumable and lasting option that guarantees standard alignment year after year. That's the benefit with Gallopade. When the standards change, so do we. If there's amendments or changes to the standard during the course of your adoption, we adjust and we change to those. We're going to see where each unit starts out with those big questions that anchor that content for all of the activities ahead, and look at tons of primary sources to engage student in thinking like a historian and looking at original artifacts. The student book has lots of student-led supporting activities, and it's really easy to understand these illustrations on grade level. The student book is designed to be a consumable. You get new ones each year for the adoption. They'll come in each year for your students new, so they can use them however they'd like. It's written for the standards with our research-based design, critical thinking activities, ELA integrations. We mentioned the big question, primary sources. It's available in English and in Spanish, and it's adaptable for all learners. The student books are kind of built on that repetitive learning cycle, like I said, small bites of information that reinforces it. So we're going to give them a bit of information to activate them, and then we're going to give them some sort of reinforcement activity. As you see on the list here, tons of reinforcement activities, everything from analyzing charts and graphs, interpreting historical sources, all the way down to research activities, primary sources, writing prompts, and more. So that's what we do. We give them that bit of information, and then we reinforce it with these activities to support that, to increase recall. Kind of taking a look inside the student book here, as you can see, there's a primary source analysis built in here. There's the excerpt 1 and excerpt 2, and then they engage. Over here on the other side, you're seeing some charts and graphs, and then they engage. That's what we do. We give them that chunk, and then we engage. That helps take it from working memory on into short-term memory, and then further on to long-term memory for improved recall. The expectations are there for the students as well to see, where they can see what those expectations are all along the way. The skill builder activities, as we mentioned before, cover those critical thinking skills that we saw with point of view, analyzing primary sources, problem solution, decision making, all sorts of critical thinking skills. We want to focus on making sure that we teach children not what to think per se, but how to think, how to evaluate things, how to look at things, how to use their own mind for those critical thinking skills. Another bonus is that it covers a lot of your literacy and your ELA standards through our vocabulary, writing prompts, information, fact and opinion, discussing your opinion, author's purpose, point of view. All of these things are built right into the curriculum for that ELA integration. The student ebook is the same content as the student physical book, the student workbook that you have in the physical version. We have a student ebook that's fully interactive. And what I like about that is, for me, one of my number one rules was I never send anything home with a kid I ever expected to see again. So I like that they can take that book and they can go home and they can work on this interactively at home online. They can engage in that way. It's identical to the print, but it also has the ability, you can highlight, you can annotate. It has an interactive table of contents. It has read aloud and translation options, all sorts of accessibility compliant features, as well as it's projectable to be used in the front of the classroom and to work with, say, your smartboard. The teacher's edition. Now, this is your lesson planning all in one. What we like to do is we like to provide you with everything you need to teach for the full school year, to give you every single piece and component that you need so that you're not having to go to other places and pull other resources and grab other things to bring into the lesson. So what we've done is, in addition to providing all of these resources, we've also given you these lesson planning tools. It's designed by teachers for teachers. That's the way it was made. Everything that you see in here are specific recommendations from teachers that they'd like to see in a teacher's edition. And that's what we did. From our learning objectives and opening activities to instruction and differentiating activities to all of the various resources that are available to you. The planning pages help you kind of begin each lesson in each chapter and sort of look at your goals, your priorities, kind of mark out your timeline and see, what pace you want to follow with this, as well as customized instruction activities and strategies. In the teacher edition, as I mentioned a few things on the last screen there, you're going to see it's going to include your learning objectives, an overview, your learning targets, sample questions for inquiry sparking. It's got a student-friendly definition page for the essential vocabulary. It has tips that help customize the lesson, step-by-step instructions on how to use a variety of resources, how to go through and differentiate, how to go through, as you see, the differentiated learning support, those strategies, how to accelerate, how to remediate. All of those different strategies you're going to find in your teacher's edition to connect with all learning styles. There are additional resources for all sorts of things like remediation, English language learners, project learning, extensions, many more activities to go beyond the book. So it really puts all of your planning in one location. In there, you saw the alignment guide, the unit opener, and this is just kind of a sample of it there for every unit. These are the pieces that you're going to have in that unit. The alignment guide all the way through the vocab, differentiated lessons. You're going to see in a little bit, we'll look at your curated content board, the review, and even at-home support that's available. With every chapter, it's going to start off with that big question and those learning targets. It's going to give you mini lessons to go through to teach with mini lessons, as well as your teaching tools, the student edition answer key, your vocab builder, interactive chapter review, your study guide, all your formative assessments you're going to find within every chapter in the teacher's edition. Taking a look at it, this is kind of one of the pages here where it's thinking like, where it goes through thinking like a political scientist, thinking like an economist, thinking like a historian, thinking like a geographer. So it gives you additional activities and additional teaching ideas that you can kind of go a little deeper if you'd like to go through and look at these different roles that students could look at, even potential jobs and futures. They can go through and look at these types of things and thinking in that format. That big question that I mentioned looks just like this. You're going to see the big question, and then you're going to see those supporting questions that help you get there. So it's going to give you the big question. It's also going to give you some possible responses to the big question, some possible things students might say. Those supporting questions are all of those pieces that come together piece by piece as they go through the lessons to support that overall big question. The instructional framework There has the opening activity. It shows you materials needed, steps and processes to follow. Your mini lesson ideas that you're going to see here as you go through. It'll go through and it tells you what the mini lesson is for this one right here. Here's one of the mini lessons with teacher tips and things of that nature. So it goes through and gives you that mini lesson. Differentiated learning. You can show here scaffolding support, different ways you can scaffold, different ways you can have extended learning opportunities, ways that you can go beyond the book and reach higher and higher levels and push students, increasing rigor. It has all of those things available to you right there in the teacher's edition. Additionally available to you are the biography readers in grades 1 through 5. There are print and digital versions. The biography readers just provide additional information about important figures, not just to U.S. history, but also to Florida history. It's a way to expand upon what they've already learned in the books and understand the life and contributions of these important figures in history. They're easy to read stories that have interactive exercises, and it's really built to include a glossary, facts, puzzles, achievements, and much more. It's just a great opportunity to extend learning on these people. The curated content board, as you see here, each unit's going to have its own curated content board, as well as you're going to have curated content board packets of these high quality, I think it's 8x10s of each one of these materials, where it goes through and it just has additional primary sources, additional images you can use for all sorts of things. Attention getting steps, you can use them for rotation based learning, you can use to extend and refine learning. I like to use them as wall decorations in the classroom when we're on that unit. There's a lot of different ways you can use that curated content. So that's a really neat feature that we've added in. Is not only do we have this digitally that's projectable, but with the class set, you also get the actual hard copies of them as well. The teaching tools, and this is what really takes Gallopade to the next level. Our books are wonderful. Our books are a core central component of our material, but the vast majority you're going to find in those teaching tools that go beyond the book. These are going to be things like you see on the screen here with your learning targets, interactive read alouds, projects, your study guides, internet links to additional research activities, internet links to other videos, vocab builder, analyzing primary sources, practice pages, writing prompts, graphic organizers, internal videos that we've made, map skill builders, but of course your vocab quizzes and reviews. You're going to see your curated content, additional unit activities, and artistic expression, and many more. There are tons of different types of teaching tools that are available, over 24 types and hundreds for each grade. These are assignable both in digital and print format. It's really up to you. You get to decide what works in your classroom. Each of these are able to be done either digitally or they're able to be done as a reproducible to provide remediation, reinforcement, and extension, and to dig deeper. That's what we designed it when we talk about Gallopade being everything from no tech to low tech to high tech to all tech. We have that capability with these tools to do that for you. As you see some sample pages here, these are the physical copies. These would be the print versions of them with the writing prompts, the vocab, a graphic organizer. And all of our graphic organizers are designed to be interactive notebook pages with the cut here, fold here, glue here. So you have that capability. They can still complete them online as well if you want to do it as a digital notebook. It has the interactive read aloud. I really like to use these interactive read alouds when I'm doing rotation and station-based learning. And so that's what I do with those is I kind of have that for my higher group. I'm going through and I'm going to have them read, stop, and ask questions amongst their peers. For my middle group, I'm probably going to do more with like they're reading and I'm stopping and asking questions. For my low group, I might even be reading to them some and asking questions, focusing on listening skills. It just depends on the grade you're using them with and the skill level of the students, but you're able to differentiate that in that way. We have those unit activities, like right here, we have a map for them to use and answer questions about their study guide that prepares them for each of the ExperTrack tests and project-based learning with the grading page that goes along with it. Now, there's different ways you can use these teaching tools. You can follow right down our guide, and when you get to this page, use it here as you go along the book, and each one, it tells you when to use it, or you can do things, mix things up. You might decide you want to do everything in the book and then do interactive choice boards. Where the students get to go through and pick what they want to do. You might decide that this time I'm going to do a mini lesson format where we cover something projected up on the screen, then one rotation's working on activities in the book, one rotation's working on a writing prompt, one rotation's working on a let's review, and one location is working on the vocab review. So they're able to rotate through those. Or you might do pure rotational model where one group is doing the whole group lesson with you And then the other groups are using the writing prompt tool, the primary source analysis, the review page, and they're able just to rotate that way. So you're able to really customize your classroom to how you want to teach. This is the digital version of them. Many of them that are interactive. The writing prompt, we saw the print version, looks like a normal page. This is some screenshots of the digital versions. It kind of has those pre-filled fields where they can go in, type in, and put in their answers. There's an example of a writing prompt. We have an example of a primary source analysis here. And these could be completed digitally, turned into you digitally, graded by you digitally. You can even leave feedback to the students on how they scored what they scored, what they need to do. You can decide that, hey, they didn't really do this. You can reassign it to them, or you could re-release the same page to them and have them go back and correct it. So you have that full interactivity, just like it was paper that you were able to hand back out to the students and say, complete this. Or if you wanted to give them another copy and say, do this, you can do that digitally with the teaching tools in this format. What we're going to look at next is our ExperTrack testing and tracking. ExperTrack has several different types of tests here. We have our checkpoints, our benchmarks, and our summatives. The checkpoints are kind of like our chapter tests. They go through each time. Now, these tests are designed to be quick formative assessments for the chapter, and to go through and assess learning very quickly, very rapidly, and still provide time if you need to reteach and recover things. These tests are 10, 15 minutes. Your benchmark tests, they're going to be longer. They're used to measure and document student progress. We have multiple of those already made, as well as summative tests. These are all pre-built. These are auto-graded. Every one of these pre-built assessments are auto-graded. They do provide reports by the standard, and they are printable. If you decided you wanted to do a printable version of them, they are printable as well. It's really up to how you want to do it. In addition, you can see here what we have in those is our technology enhanced questions. For all of our pre-built questions, they all use TEQs, which is technology enhanced questions, like placing things in this cause and effect flow chart there in the first one. Going clockwise around, there's where you're putting things into two categories there. There's another one around there where you're placing things in a flow chart. There's where you're labeling maps on the map. Going around to the Venn diagram, where you're actually placing things in the Venn diagram and filling out a table by placing those items directly in there. So you're able to go through and use these technology enhanced questions. We also have the build your own question, which is we have those pre-built assessments, but sometimes, you might want to build your own assessment. The district may decide that they want to create their own district-wide assessments, and those can be created and shared. The item bank is going to include all of those questions from the student edition, pre-built assessments, vocab quizzes, tons of questions that are put into that item bank. Also, there are additional questions that we've built that are just exclusive to the item bank. When you go through, you can search by standard usage. You can search by what type of question you're looking for, the depth of knowledge level. You can look for keyword. You can search by grade, and many, many more ways. You can go through and search on how to build those. The neat new feature that we've added is you can also modify those questions or create your own questions. This is really good if you have students that you need to differentiate a test for, such as limited choice, things like that. You're able to go through and do that. You're able to make those modifications to that test. And you're also able to create your own questions you build in. I know in my classroom, I always like to sometimes throw a little fun question in there, like, what did Mr. Farmer wear yesterday? So, you have the ability to go in and create your own questions and modify those questions that are there. Another fun thing is that you can share those with your team, with your district, with your school. You can share out the tests that you make so that others can use those and have that resource available to them. This is really helpful in the event that, if the school or the district or a whole grade or all wanting to stay kind of on the same assessment schedule, you're able to do that and assess along the way with those. If you wanted to make quarterly assessments, or if you wanted to have 9 weeks testing, you have the ability to go to where you left off at that 9 weeks and stop there, and then search for the standards that cover that and just assess up to that point. So you have that ability to modify and create your own. The online curriculum, as we've seen components of so far, you've seen the testing, you've seen the teaching tools. It's really designed to be an engaging and comprehensive digital core curriculum. That's what it's built to be. And it covers all of the standards. It's an all-in-one platform that for teachers to be able to have complete digital instruction. This even works if you have to go to distance learning, anything like that. If you have, in the event of bad weather and students are having to stay home, if there's, bad weather, inclement weather. We had a local school here, my son's high school, destroyed by a tornado. They were able to continue on with Gallopade for the remainder of the school year. So you're able to use this online platform in that way. Students interact with the materials just like they would in the classroom. It's just a digital version of those materials. We do integrate with most single sign-on systems, Clever, ClassLink, Canvas, Google Classroom. We have the ability to push assignments out through Canvas. We have the ability to push assignments out through Google Classroom, works through Schoology, and many more. So we have that full integration that you need and that you're looking for. The complete digital sources, the complete course covers all of those resources. You can assign it to a whole class. You can assign it to groups. You can create your own groups. You can assign it to those. You can pick individual students. And it's very important to us that it does meet all UDL requirements. And the resources can be searched by standard. They can be searched by chapter. They can be searched by unit. You can go through and search those resources, but they're also put in a very orderly way, kind of like a file folder system. So you're going to have your main class. Underneath your main class, you're going to have everything that's it. All the units will be listed. Underneath each unit, you're going to have all the unit materials and then a folder for each of the chapters. Underneath of those chapter folders, you're going to have all of those components that go along with that chapter to really make it easy to find. And easy to use and easy to work with. We like to have that neat, streamlined approach. In the reporting dashboard here, as you can see, it's very easy to see. It's color-coded. It tells if the students are developing, if they're meeting, or if they're exceeding the standard. You can go through and you can look at this by assignment. You can look at it by student. You can break it down in lots of different ways. You can look at it as an overall class. You can compare students to one another. You can go into an assignment and do an item analysis report where you're able to go through and look for error patterns, possibly things that need to be targeted for reteaching. You have that capability to go and quickly see what needs to be covered further, what students have mastered. You're able to go through and monitor their usage and completion. If you're using online components, online tools, you can even see how long they were on there. You can go through and see how much time they spent on it. It also has the ability to print and export this reporting data. It also has the ability to take this data for direct to gradebook import. So you're able to transfer that material over to your gradebook. You see here is an example of the item analysis report. So it goes through and it shows how the students did on each question. It shows the correct answer. And then you can see there, for instance, on the first question, we notice there's a lot of A's there when the correct answer was B. So we know that there's probably some sort of gap there that we need to cover, something that they might have connected with in a wrong way. So we know we go through and we spot an error pattern like that. We can go through and correct that early on before it becomes part of their schema and their understanding of the subject. We're able to correct that quickly. Here's another one for the standards mastery overview that you see, where you can go through and it'll show you if you want to pull up by the standard. It gives the average here for each student, how they've done. It tells the overall average of your class, how they're performing on each standard, as well as it shows how each individual student is performing on the standard. So you can really look at standards mastery as well. The most important thing with Gallopade for us is that you use us, you love us, you know how to use it, you know how that you're supported by us. And our partnership goes way beyond the classroom. Our experts are always available to help you with anything, with training, support tips, navigating tools, teaching tips, resources. We want you to be successful. That's our goal. We're not looking at partnering just this one cycle. We're looking at cycle after cycle for adoption. You're like, hey, we love Gallopade. We know how to use it. We want to make sure that you're using it to the best you can. And so therefore, we're always offering support, training, tips. We have support at Gallopade.com. You can actually chat live online with someone. You'll have your trainer's contact information to reach out to. We provide in-person training, and this is all at no additional cost. It's built into the adoption. That's what we want to do, is that we want to make sure that you know how to use this stuff really well, that you're able to be successful with everything. Now, we've talked a lot about the materials. We've looked at the different ways they can be used. We've kind of done a quick overview. The next step that we're going to follow is we're going to go into the system and do a bit of a live view. This is your teacher dashboard. Now, you're going to start off when you first log in. This is what you're going to see. It's going to list your courses in these widgets here, and you can customize what widgets you want viewable. Here's the one for my courses, things that need grading, overall student performance, looking at your students. So it has all of these different components here. So we're going to look at a specific class. Since we're doing elementary altogether, we'll kind of go to the middle here and go to third grade. Once you get into your course, you're going to have your course introduction here at the beginning. We can open it either from the left side navigation or we can open it up here. But once you open it, it's going to show you the different components. So we see here all of the things that are in the introduction section. Let's take a look at a few of these that might really appeal to you, such as the pacing guide. When we go into the pacing guide, it's going to show us how much time we spend throughout the year on each subject. So you'll go through and see on your pacing guide there the number of days, the semesters, all of that on your pacing guide. So it's going to show you first and second semester, and it's going to tell you the standards covered, the benchmark alignment, other benchmark integrations. It's going to have all of those in there. We also mentioned that we cover a lot of cross-curricular standards. This is where you look at how Gallopade teaches across the curriculum. It has tons of strategies for math and things you can do for integrating all of your math standards all the way through. It tells you what teachers can do, what students can do. And if we go to this lower section, we also have our ELA integrations and ways that you can integrate ELA into the lesson, things that you can do throughout all of the lessons to help integrate those specific standards. So that's just a good way to show how we teach across the curriculum. Next, we're going to look at an ExperTrack test. Now, every chapter has shorter ExperTrack tests. This is the benchmark test we're looking at here. So it's going to have right here levels of government and things like this, where it's a choose one, choose two, choose three question. We also have where they're placing things into organizers, where they're going through and dropping things into sections, where they're engaging with the test interactively. And then again, back to the traditional choose one, then you might have a drop-down menu, where you go through and look at and you pick the choice from a drop-down menu. They might also have questions like this where they're placing things onto an image or placing things onto a map, where they're putting things into tables and categorizing things, where they can choose for. Lots of different question formats. So that's just a quick look at the ExperTrack test and how it works. Now we're going to go over and take a look at a specific unit or chapter. So we're going to go through and look right here. When we look into the units, there's unit 1. It's going to show the main things that go with that unit. It's going to start off with your teacher edition, the main things that go with the unit, and then how it looks in each chapter. And each unit's a little different. So if we were to go over and say, look at unit 2, it's going to have what's there in unit 2, and it's going to be places and regions. And you're going to be able to go through, let's say if we want to go down, it has the overarching thing in the unit, which is your curated content board also. I like to use that as an attention getting step. Using my curated content, I project that up, use it as an attention getting step. It has the full teacher edition, as we mentioned before in the previous part of the slideshow, where you see all the things with that differentiation, all of those tools in the teacher edition. Let's take a look now if we go into a specific chapter, just to get a sample of a chapter. So if we go to regions of the United States, it's going to start off, it's going to have your learning targets for this chapter. All of your learning targets are available. You can assign these out to students. I like to assign them out at the beginning and let them have in their dashboard. So these are the learning targets for this one chapter. So you'll be able to see your learning targets. You'll also have a digital student book. So they'll be able to see the book in digital format here. This is the digital assignable student book that's completable online. So they actually interact. They can interact with this book as well. So this is the assignable book. We have here where we talked about chunking, where it gives them content and then it has them engaged. They have it where they can listen to it. They can translate it. They can go through and choose what they want to do there. If they need the read aloud functionality, or if they need to translate it to another language in both written and spoken text, we have that writing and translating ability. We also have what I like to use is the vocab builder. The vocab builder, this right here is the digital online version of the vocab builder. If we go back over here and look at the vocab builder, there's also an alternative terms to define print activity. What I like to do is I like to assign out the alternative terms to define in the reproducible format here. So what I do is I have them make copies of the word. I have them make a copy of this, and then I 3-hole punch it for their binder. The next thing I do at the beginning of the chapter is I go down, I'm going to jump ahead here and take a look at the study guide. What I like to do is also have this pre-printed and 3-hole punched, so they're able to have this study guide. So they'll have the study guide and the terms they need to define right off the bat at the beginning of this chapter. Now, what I do at the end of class every day with a few minutes left, I say, okay, everybody go back to your seats. And once they get back to their seats, I'm like, let's get out our vocab guide. Let's get out our study guide. What can we answer today on the vocab guide? What can we answer on the study guide? And it sort of gives you a built-in summarizer. So that's some way that I like to personally use the vocab builder in the study guide. Of course, you can use it any way you'd like to. We also have graphic organizers that are built to be interactive notebook pages. Of course, you can assign these out digitally and they can add text to them, but they're also built to be interactive notebooks with the cut here, fold here, glue here. So you really have your option if you want to go print or digital with these. We also have the writing prompts that are built into it. You see a writing prompt here in this chapter. There's a printable version if you want to do a physical real world copy. There's also the digital interactive version if you go and look at the writing prompts. So it's going to tell you about regions, and then you're going to go through and you're going to type it up, or the students are going to go through and type it up. And so they can do that on the computer, or they can do that on the real physical copy. It's really up to you. We also have lots of internet links built in, which are links to additional extending activities. There's a game here, a song here. We also have extended learning activities for advancement. So if we wanted to do this one in the road trip planner, it's going to be an extending activity where they're going to see the map itself, and then they're going to have to go through and describe what they're seeing and what they're doing and create a road trip. So we have those extended learning activities. We also have, we mentioned that this teacher edition has mini lessons. Sometimes in those mini lessons, there are additional materials needed to go along with it. So if in that chapter you have in the mini lesson has tools that need to go along with it, these will be available to be able to reproduce from here and use from here. We went ahead and made a lot of those. There's a mini lesson that uses, for instance, a suitcase, so that has that there. There's a mini lesson that uses labels, so you're going to see the U.S. region labels. So it just kind of pre-made some of those things that go along with the mini lesson. We also have a vocabulary quiz. The vocab quiz is your standard vocabulary quiz. These questions are also loaded in the question bank for the create your own question, but it does go through and it gives you the choice of, choosing the correct vocabulary. So that's a quick look at the vocabulary quiz, and all of them, as we mentioned, ends with an ExperTrack test. So it'll have that ExperTrack. This is checkpoint 5, where they're going to assess learning here. A lot of it mirrors what they've already done. So we just want the students to be successful and learn the material and be able to evaluate them and check their knowledge to see that they did gain knowledge of the material over the course of the lesson. Each chapter is a little different. Each unit's a little different. We took a look here at chapter 5. If we want to go to the last chapter of the book, we can scroll down to Unit 8, Chapter 15. And here you're going to see it has the teacher edition, the curated content board. From here, we can also open up the chapter itself and see it's going to have that same vocab builder, but it's got internet links. There's a project-based learning activity that's built into this one where you go through and complete the project. I like to use this more toward the end a lot of times of the chapter, but this is project-based learning on the branches of government. It also has the grading page that goes along with the projects. And every chapter and every unit has some small differences in the materials available, but there are lots of different common types of materials with links to videos, activities, extended learning, practice pages, review pages. I like to use interactive read alouds. One thing I like to do with this, we mentioned earlier different learning styles and different classroom styles. I like to kind of make rotation-based learning. So I might have one group, I'm going through an interactive read aloud with them. Another group's doing a let's practice, while another group might be working on the project. And yet another group might be doing one of the mini lessons or another review activity. So, and they're able to rotate. So you can really customize with all of these tools how you want your classroom to function, how you want your classroom to look. And that's just a quick walkthrough of the live view of the system on what it looks like on a chapter basis. Next, we'll take a look at the report view. This is just a quick view of the report screen. You're going to be able to see the widgets that you have in place here, like student progress monitoring, standard progress monitoring. You can see your favorite reports listed here, your standards mastery overview, and from these, you can go in further to these reports. Let's take a look at the standards mastery overview. In this report, you're going to have a matrix here that's going to show all of your students. and it's going to show how they've mastered each standard all the way down. So you'll be able to see, and it's color coded here, whether they're developing on the standard, whether they've met the standard, whether they've exceeded the standard. You're able to go through and look at that and tell how the students are doing on a student by student basis. From this screen, you can also click on an individual student. If you're meeting with a parent or something, you just want to show that student, you can click on an individual student and go further into detail on that individual student. We also have another type of report I'd like to showcase here, and that is the item analysis report. I really like to look at these after we've done an ExperTrack test assignment such as that, so I can go through and see how the overall class did on each individual question. So I see here this question 1, we had a 50% rate, which means there could be some reteaching needed there. Whereas I see on other ones, we have a much higher success rate as an overall class. You can see by question, you can see by class, you can see any way you need to examine it and look at it. So it's really neat to be able to go through and take a look at all of these pieces in this item analysis in this matrix like this. This is the reports view we've looked at, and there are multiple types of reports, but that's just a quick view to go through and look at the reports that we have available. I wanted to cover one more thing too in the student report here. You also have a section of students. This right here is where your students are. You could go to your individual students here and looking at how each individual student is doing. You see here it has the student's name, their overall average, what their status is. It also has this message center here. So this is an internal messaging center that you can send things back and forth. So it's a really great tool for being able to interact with your students. And that's just a quick look at the report viewer and how the reports work. There are a couple of dashboard features I wanted to highlight here at the end that I didn't mention earlier. One is the notification pane that you see at the top there that notifies you of any events or anything that's coming up. Another, we talked about the chat function. This is another place you can go into the chat function and live chat with students. We also have our translation tool built in, where you can go through and translate anything from Afrikaans all the way down to Zulu. So we're going to take a look at Haitian Creole. When you go in and you change it, it changes the dashboard. It changes all of the language, all of the search capability. Everything is translated here into Haitian Creole or whatever language you select. It also translates the materials themselves into these languages. So it really has a great translation capability to be able to reach every student. I'm going to exit out of that for the moment, and we're going to look at one last piece, and that is the My Content piece. In the My Content section, this is where you can create your own assessments, build your own assessments, pull in assessments that are pre-made and edit and adapt them as needed. You also can add your own resources, and you can write your own questions here. You can actually make technology-enhanced questions just like you see in the ExperTrack test. You can do that here as well and add that in. So a lot of neat features to the dashboard. For this next section, I just wanted to show that we covered all the things that are in the rubric. We covered a lot of these over the course of the previous sections, but I did want to lay those out for you. Versus you sitting and listening to me read this rubric out piece by piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it and allow each slide to sit for about 5 seconds and then go on to the next one. That way you can pause and take a look if you need to without eating up a lot of time. In conclusion, Gallopade is a 100% standards-aligned, full-year curriculum with no gaps. We use evidence-based, proven methods to reach students and help them achieve mastery. We motivate students and keep them engaged. Gallopade provides teachers with all that they need to teach and differentiate lessons throughout the year. Gallopade can be used in classrooms that are all tech, high tech, low tech, or no tech. We make it easier for testing with pre-built assessments and the ability for teachers to create their own assessments. Gallopade supports teachers with ongoing training and support, and Gallopade makes successful teaching easier. Thank you for your time today.